Greetings, all you mysterious, growing, crystal-encased people out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor. This is Undeclared Bajor, a Star Trek Deep Space Nine rewatch. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
Hello.
Today we're going to recap, discuss, and rate Season 3, Episode 14, Heart of Stone. Alternate title, Foot Not Loose.
Okay.
Our discussion will contain full spoilers for the series up through this episode. However, we will try to keep spoilers for later in the series to an appropriate minimum. We won't reveal anything too big, like when Bashir gets his foot stuck in something slightly more embarrassing than a rock.
The real question is, how do you like Heart of Stone as an episode name?
I think it's a little weak. It's like, what do we got that's stone related? I don't know. Heart of Stone. Which, because I misremembered what the twist is in this episode.
What did you think the twist was?
Because I was like, oh, like I didn't remember this episode at first. Then like when it got to the part where Kira's got her foot stuck in the thing, I was like, oh, is it that Kira is like, for some reason I remembered like Kira got like trapped in a cave-in or something. And that the Kira we saw was like a mimic organism that she touched.
Oh.
And it was just kind of like this weird thing that was acting like Kira, but it was just like a weird mimic thing. So I was like, oh, that would fit if it's like just this kind of weird rock creature that's only pretending to be Kira or whatever. But that turned out not to be the twist.
No. It is a weird creature pretending to be Kira, but...
Yes. And I was like, is that an episode of Star Trek or something? Because I
don't remember that.
Where somebody was being mimicked by a weird creature and we didn't realize it.
I mean, there's probably lots of episodes where somebody's being mimicked by a weird creature and we don't realize it.
Yeah, that's true. Fair. That's true. I don't. If you know what I'm talking about, put it in the comments.
Well, Star Trek episode impersonator.
We gotta encourage people to put stuff in the comments.
Turnaround Intruder. What's that one? That was an original series episode. Okay. Oh yeah. So somebody seems to this is referring to Kirk with quotes around him a lot. So the person appearing to be Kirk then declares that Janice Lester has taken the place of Captain Kirk and begins to strangle the person appearing to be Lester. Okay, so yeah, somebody impersonates Kirk. I don't know.
There was the episode where the monster was hiding as the dog that one time of Next Gen.
Oh yeah.
Is that the same? Is that that's not the Exocomp episode? That's a different episode.
No, yeah. It's Geordi falls in love with the girl or whatever and thinks she might be an evil shape-shifting monster, but it turns out to be the dog.
Right. That's one of the ones where the episode it's like
it's the name. It's her name. Yeah, Aquiel. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Anyway. This episode originally aired February 6, 1995. It was written by Ira Stephen Bear and Robert Hewitt Wolfe, and directed by Alexander Singer. I feel like we haven't seen him in a while. He's been out of the rotation.
Let's see. Let's see when his last one. So let's look at his list of DS9 episodes. 6 DS9 episodes and 6 Next Generation episodes. His last one was Second Sight. So that has been a little while. Oh man, and he did Relics and Ship in a Bottle and Descents Part 1 and 2 and Gambit Part 2 of Next Generation. Those are some good Next Generation episodes.
Yeah, Ship in a Bottle. Check out our review for Ship in a Bottle.
Let's see. And none of the Voyager... I don't recognize the name of Voyager episodes as well as I do other Star Trek, so I don't know what any of these are. Oh, The Swarm. I remember that one. Is Threshold the one where they... Yeah! He directed Threshold, the one where they break the Warp 10 barrier and, like, Tom Paris and Janeway turn into giant slug monsters.
Oh, yeah.
And then they have babies, and they turn them back, but the babies get left behind to grow into slug monsters.
I vaguely remember that episode. That was weird.
Yup.
All right, so in this episode,
no one turns into a slug monster.
I guess nobody turns into a slug monster. That's
that we
technically
see.
True. Yeah. Kira and Odo are on a runabout on the way back from a security review on a Bajoran colony. Which, did they get a new runabout set? Because this runabout set looks much snazzier than previous runabout sets.
I didn't notice.
Maybe it was just the camera angles or something. Odo is in a bad mood because Kira didn't consult him before turning down a dinner invitation from the governor of the colony, or whatever. So we have a whole scene revolving around that.
Yep, where they argue like an old married couple. It's like, you said no for both of us and didn't even ask me. But you don't eat. Well, I would have liked to be consulted. Like, come on, dudes.
Yeah. It's a great banter. Suddenly, they see something on their sensors. It looks like a Maquis ship. Let's follow it, says Kira. Okay, says Odo. And then after this gripping opening teaser, we got to the intro. Where Kira's just like, oh, let's follow it. And Odo's like, all right. Man, I'm hooked. They follow the ship to a moon and decide to land and go look for the Maquis guy in some super unstable caves. They decide to split up and search for the guy, but immediately Odo gets a call from Kira that she's trapped and needs help. He quickly finds her standing in a cavern with her foot encased in a rock. Odo tries to touch it, but the rock grows. Then he tries whacking it with another rock he finds laying around, which Kira watches with a strange look of discomfort on her face. She's like, ooh, ow.
Well, she's supposedly trapped inside the thing, so...
Hitting the rock. Then Kira tries shooting the rock with a phaser, but that just makes the rock grow even more. The cave is getting pretty shaky, so Odo decides to hike back to the runabout to beam her out. Meanwhile, for some reason, it seems the writers didn't think a story about Kira getting her foot stuck could fill an entire episode.
Not super visually interesting.
But you know what that means. Jake and Nog.
Mainly Nog.
This time decidedly more Nog-focused.
Yeah.
Nog shows up in Ops asking to see Commander Sisko and gains admittance to his office after using the unstoppable code word, "It's urgent."
I don't think it was urgent, let's be fair.
I don't know. It worked. It got him in.
That's true, but I'm just saying, they could have waited till after, he got off shift or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's not especially urgent. Nog drops a big pile of latinum on Sisko's desk and explains that he's just finished the Ferengi ritual of manhood or whatever, which would have been an interesting thing to see, but
Yeah.
And now it's time for him to strike out into the world and find an apprenticeship. And for this, he has chosen Commander Sisko, for you see, Nog has decided he wants to be the first Ferengi in Starfleet. Sisko tells Nog that he will need a letter of recommendation to be eligible to even apply for the academy, and Nog is like, well then write me one. And Sisko is like, he'll think about it.
I do like that anyone can go to the academy, whether you're a Federation citizen or not, if you get a letter of recommendation from some Starfleet person.
Sure.
And so it's like, Borg, Klingons, Romulans, whatever, just convince one dude that you should get to go and you can apply.
Right. Well, I mean, I assume there's like a whole application process because he talks about entrance exams and stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, the way that we saw it in The Next Generation, like Wesley Crusher had a lot of trouble getting into the academy, and it was like he had to go and show up at this one specific planet at this very specific time to take a test with like 5 other people, and if he didn't do that, then he wasn't going to be able to apply to the academy that year. So it really does, they make it very difficult in The Next Generation. I don't feel like it could be quite that difficult.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, this letter is just like the first step in what I assume will be a very long journey. Later, Nog helps his dad fix a replicator in Rom's first ever display of technical savvy.
Well, he was good at like picking locks or whatever in that previous one.
True. Okay, he can pick locks. Okay. That's the setup. I just remember in season 1, Odo refused to believe that Rom had repaired a replicator.
Yeah, so maybe that's the real first time, is Rom repaired that replicator even if Odo didn't believe it.
Maybe. Well, I mean, we know Rom didn't repair the replicator in that episode, so
okay.
Because that was the one where Quark was just sneaking into the
Oh, is that the
command
aphasia
level
one?
decks, and then was just stealing replicator time there or whatever.
Right. I forgot.
So anyway, Quark is impatient with the replicator repair and threatens to take the downtime from Rom's pay, which Nog notes with an angry look on his face. Jake comes in and says how funny he finds Nog's wanting to join Starfleet, quote, joke, which makes Nog really mad, and he tells him it's not a joke. And Jake is like, well, why do you want to join Starfleet? And Nog is like, that's personal, shut up.
Yeah, no, like, mind your own damn business.
Back on the shaky moon, Odo's attempts to beam Kira out fail due to that pesky transporter enemy ionization.
Plot.
Yeah.
The transporter enemy plots where transporters can't be used or they'd solve the problem.
Yep. It's like, he could use the transporter. No, he can't. Ionization. We've got this.
It's like, what about transporter pattern enhancers? No, this is the kind of thing that doesn't help.
Yep. Yeah, the writers really thought this one through, you can tell.
I love the computer just being like, nope. As the computer, I know that will not work. Yep. Although then he does use the pattern enhancer props for his plan later.
Yeah. It's like these props, these glowy tip sticks can do multiple things.
I guess so.
Odo launches a probe to call Deep Space Nine for help, but it will take 2 days for them to get the signal, apparently. Which, how fast to just fly there and get help?
That's a good point.
Of course, that rock might eat Kira all up while you're gone. Or that Maquis guy is supposedly running around.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
So I guess you can't do that. Odo returns to Kira and hears phaser fire. Kira says the Maquis guy came in and shot at her and ran away. And to make matters worse, now both feet are in the rock. Should
have kept that other foot really far away from the rock. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know. It's like, how did that foot get in the rock? Like, you just need to be holding that foot up. Like, you need to be standing on one foot.
Apparently, when Odo shoots the thing earlier, that is the first time we see Odo handle a weapon in the series.
Ah. Wait, what? Don't even remember. What did he shoot?
He shot the rock, didn't he? Or did she shoot the rock?
Kira shot the rock.
At some point, he holds the gun.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, we do have that anti-phaser policy of Odo's that that rarely gets mentioned, but I guess they do hold to it.
Oh, hold on. It's at the end of the episode when he does that. Sorry, because he's like threatening her, and no changeling has ever harmed another.
Okay.
So, got too early with that.
Yeah, I remember that part now. Anyway, after a long conversation with Dr. Bashir about an upcoming baby shower, Sisko encounters Nog on the promenade. Nog wants an update on the recommendation letter, but Sisko expresses his doubt of Nog's fitness due to his bad grades
and criminal record.
Yeah. Stealing stuff and getting arrested all the time.
He may have robbed that Tholian ambassador. I don't know.
Yeah. But Sisko decides to give Nog a chance to prove himself and has Dax assign him to inventory a cargo bay.
A cargo bay that has been recently inventoried.
Right.
As we discover.
Yeah. So, it's a good way to compare Nog's work.
Yeah.
Back in the cave, Kira is now up to her waist in the rock. Odo remembers a crime report he read, which gives him an idea to shoot sonic waves at the rock using a gizmo he just happens to have on the runabout. Which, that heist sounds like a cool story.
Yeah, let's see that heist.
Like a planet where all the buildings are made out of crystal stuff that the inhabitants secrete from their bodies or something. Is that what I understood?
Yeah. Everything is made of spider silk that turns into crystal, like when it hardens or whatever.
And then the Nausicaans used like sonic waves to, I guess, shatter a bank vault made of glass or something.
Well, of crystal.
Sure. And then go in and... So that needs to be a novel, at the very least. But while they wait for the sonic wave thing to work...
It's a covariant oscillator that he takes from the runabout.
Oh, sure, yeah, that device. The
runabout needs to use all the time.
Yeah.
For oscillating covariance.
Yeah, if this device has ever been mentioned before or since in all of Star
it
Trek.
hasn't.
Okay. I was like, I will be very amazed. But yeah, so Odo tells Kira about his fun holosuite kayaking trips with Chief O'Brien. Odo seems to be under the impression that kayaking is O'Brien's all-time favorite activity.
Well, yeah, I mean, he did it back on the Enterprise, so this is a callback to that at least.
Okay. He's like, the only thing O'Brien loves more than kayaking is his family. I'm like, wow, he's that into kayaking?
Yeah, like, I feel like we see, it may have even been all the way back to Pulaski, when he's, like, in the sick bay because he's dislocated his shoulder kayaking.
Uh-huh.
And the doctor's like, dude, you gotta stop this kayaking shit. Like, he's like, no, I won't stop.
Okay.
But it's funny because when he starts saying like, oh man, I gotta be back by tonight because I got these plans with Chief O'Brien, I was 100% sure he was gonna be like, yeah, I promised to help set up for the baby shower for Ensign Phillips Pran.
It's like this baby shower needs to tie in more ways. This ensign is apparently a very popular dude.
Yeah, he's gonna get mentioned a few more times in this series, but I don't believe we ever see him. We don't even know what species he is.
Right. He's some kind of species that, I guess, buds babies off of himself. So the cave keeps shaking, and Odo turns himself into a big umbrella to stop rocks from falling on Kira. And then Odo says, don't worry, we've been in worse jams than this, which sparks a really weird discussion.
Yeah, she's like, wait, what? When? He's like, oh, I read that in some books that Chief O'Brien gave me, and so I just, I thought that's how you people talked.
Yeah, he's like, can you please just tell me the platitude that will calm you down?
Of course, it turns out this is the changeling, so she just also has never heard this particular platitude. So,
it's kind of clever how they've kind of like seeded these little tiny hints in here. Because, like she would not know that whole like we've been in worse jams than this stuff. And like she seems almost genuinely interested. It's like, whoa, when were we in worse jams than this?
Yeah, that's cool. I want to find out about that.
Yeah, but the next time we see Kira, she's up to her neck in rock, which really made me laugh when it just cut to that, and like the rock is suddenly just all the way up to her neck.
Yeah, apparently that prop was not popular. So yeah, the rock prop was extremely unpopular among both the cast and crew. Ira Stephen Bear called it that horrible, horrible prop of a rock. And Nana Visitor, who we previously established is claustrophobic,
right,
was like, she said, it didn't look like I'd imagined it when I read the script. I thought it was going to be like my body turning to stone. Instead, I looked like a big old hot fudge sundae and my head was the cherry on top.
Oh, that would have been a way better effect.
And then the director says, nothing made that pinkish lavender rock look more realistic. And the visual effects supervisor says that of the actual shooting of the rock, pretty much none of it worked.
Nice.
And then she also complains about, her claustrophobia, and she's like, I thought that prop that they used to encase me was just an awful choice.
I mean, that would have been cool to see her like, gradually turning into like a statue from the foot up.
Yeah, that would have been much harder, and the whole point of this episode is that, like, it's a bottle episode because, according to Robert Hewitt Wolf, we had to pay for past tense and start saving money to do other things, so Heart of Stone was a conscious attempt to do the kind of show we've always done on DS9, like Duet or The Wire, where we take a couple interesting characters and just stick them in a room.
Sure. Yeah, that I was definitely like, oh, this is what we're doing, huh?
Mm-mm.
Or sticking a Jake and Nog in a jail cell together. Also, why, I mean, obviously, I know it's the changeling, but why are her arms now in the rock?
Yeah. Keep your arms away from the damn rock.
Hold your arms up in the air if you're being consumed from the bottom up by a weird growing rock. So, but Odo vents his frustration that factors seem to be conspiring to keep Kira from getting out of that rock. Kira weirdly asks Odo to tell the story of how he got his name, which he does. And it was basically a translation error, and his name means nothing. But now he doesn't feel like nothing because he has friends. That's the gist of the story.
I love the fact that it's like, it was just Cardassian rules. Like, every sample had to be labeled clearly and accurately. And they're like, but we don't know what this is. And the Cardassians are like, doesn't matter. Label it clearly and accurately. In Cardassian.
Right, exactly. Those Cardassians, it's like, we label it accurately so that we know if you have any, like, bomb chemicals or something. I can think of no flaws in this security system. When the story's over, Kira says that they better face the fact that she's not getting out of that rock, and Odo just better get out of there before the cave collapses.
I wonder how, like, deadly a cave collapse would be for him. Like,
yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
You can just, like, ooze out between the rocks, and he's probably fine.
Also, I was wondering, it's like, can he be used in his liquid form as, like, a lubricant to, like, you know, just goo up down into the rock and, like, get her foot out that way?
Interesting idea. I mean, presumably he could turn into something with, like, a high, like, what do you call that? Like, slipperiness or whatever. Viscosity?
Yeah. Low viscosity would be slippery, right?
Of course, have we seen him get knocked out by getting bashed on the head in human form before? I feel like that was a thing that happened. So
yeah,
maybe...
we have seen that, but I think, because I know we've commented on it, and I think you read something that they regretted that, and they, like, changed the rules of Odo about that later.
Maybe we just haven't gotten to that rule change yet. So falling rocks is still dangerous for Odo.
Well, I mean, he was apparently able to be pretty effective as that big dome
when he turned
thing.
into an umbrella.
Yeah.
So as long as he's not in normal human form where he creates a brain that can get knocked around.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fine.
Yeah, I was thinking about this today. Where does Odo see out of? Like, does he see out of his eyeballs? Because, I mean, they always show him looking at something by him pointing his face and his eyes at it. But
I just assumed that, like, I guess maybe he couldn't see until he created organs that were capable of seeing. But I don't know.
Okay. So
I'm trying to think if we see him move around in a way that would require sight when he's just goo.
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Interesting question. I had not thought of that. But Odo won't leave Kira because he admits he's in love with her. And then Kira says she's in love with Odo too, which causes a look of suspicion to pass over Odo's face as the camera zooms in.
Yeah. Now he's just like, wait a second. Like, this is when he realized, like, this is not Major Kira. What is going on here?
In love with me. Back on Deep Space Nine, Nog has done an exemplary job inventorying the cargo bay. But that was apparently a test he had no way of passing, because Sisko says Nog's just not Starfleet material, and that he's not going to write Nog a letter of recommendation. So, what was even the point of that if the very best that anybody could do was not going to be good enough? I don't know.
I thought that Sisko saying that to Nog was just like him trying to prompt him to, you know, tell the truth about his reasons. So, it's like, you think that was antagonize him.
That was like a test?
Yeah, I think it was just another test.
Maybe. But yeah, after Sisko presses him, Nog gives his reason for wanting to be in Starfleet, which is, even though his dad is a mechanical genius, footage not found, his skills are not celebrated in Ferengi society. Nog admits that he himself is a pretty crappy Ferengi and has no chance of distinguishing himself in business. Thus, he wants to try joining Starfleet, where he at least has a slim chance of making his name. Sisko is moved and agrees to write Nog the letter.
I feel like there's got to be a place in the profit-making Ferengi society for somebody who can fix stuff.
Right.
It's like, hire yourself out to fix stuff, or, you know, find a Ferengi company that engineers things and get hired there.
Sure.
Of course, I guess if he didn't get that, you know, when he became an adult, he had to get the internship or whatever by paying them some money. So maybe
he doesn't have the proper apprenticeships or something. Maybe, I don't know.
I do like how Nog is an adult, but that doesn't stop Quark from trying to tell him what to do. And he's like, no, you're not allowed to do that. Tell him, Rom.
Right. Also, it's kind of like remember the episode of Next Gen with the Ferengi scientist?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, just like scientists are not like celebrated in Ferengi culture like they are in the Federation. But, you know, I do it anyway because I love science or whatever. Anyway, in the cave, Odo examines the phaser marks on the wall. And we get the really weird line from Kira. It's like, Odo, you haven't said anything in over an hour.
Oh, yeah, she just stood there for an hour and didn't say
Yeah,
anything.
she was just sitting there encased in the rock for an hour, just being like, duh, 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 duh.
The rock has stopped moving higher up now or something, though, because it's been on her head for a while.
Yeah, that's true. It's like, she's just sitting there. It's like, wait, why isn't Odo saying anything? I'm trying to do this whole Kira trapped in a rock thing. But Odo's just like kind of rubbing the cave walls, being like, huh. But then he launches into a classic Sherlock Holmes reveal speech where he explains that the shooting could not have gone down like Kira said. Which he's like, so you said he was standing right here? She's like, yeah. He's like, aha. And she could have just been like, oh, I mean, he was standing over there. But
well, and like her thing is like, well, maybe he was standing somewhere else. I was like, well, you seemed really certain a second ago.
Yeah.
And now you're like, oh, I mean, maybe he was somewhere. I don't know. Whatever.
And also, Kira would never say she's in love with Odo because she's not. The Rock and Kira gooify and transform into the female changeling, the most cleverly named character on the show.
Yeah, apparently the actress, Salome Jens, consented to be listed in the end credits rather than the beginning, so as not to spoil the surprise.
Okay, so I actually noticed that because I saw, like, basically Max Rodenchick and Aaron Eisenberg were in the opening credits.
Mm.
And I noticed that when they chased the Maquis guy, that those were the only two guest actors named in the credits. And I was like, okay, well, they're not going to find that Maquis guy then. Because there's no actor listed who's going to play him. And then, like, when I saw her name in the credits afterwards, I was like, oh man, I wonder if they did that on purpose, or I guess they did.
Apparently this episode is the only one that lists her as special guest star instead of just guest star. So maybe that's the give for switching yourself to the end. They're like, okay, if you'll agree to be at the end, we'll call you special guest star.
Yeah, probably something like that.
It comes with twice the money.
Yeah. But yeah, so she does the slow clap and reveals that the whole thing was a psyop to trick Odo into thinking Kira was dead so that he would return to the Great Link. I mean, well, I guess we'll discuss this ridiculous plan later. Fortunately, Kira is still alive in a stasis box or something for some reason. The changeling taunts Odo that Kira will never love him, and then they all basically just get the F out of there. Once they're back on the station, Odo tells Kira the basically true story, but leaves out the love stuff.
Yeah. Why did the female changeling impersonate me? Because you were here.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that is an excellent answer.
Yeah.
Because it's a dumb question when it's like, there were only two of us on this shuttle. Why would the female changeling impersonate me to, like, mess with you?
Yeah, I mean, I would have just assumed that was the answer, but Kira's suspicious for some reason. And then after Nog has presumably told his family about his plans to join Starfleet, Quark tries to forbid it, but Rom stands up for him and tells him to follow his dreams. And then they like have a nice father-son handshake. The end.
Yep. Oh, I left out when we got to the title discussion. According to the wiki, the title of the episode comes from, and the plot was partially inspired by, William Shakespeare's Twelfth Night. Which, I went and read the plot of Twelfth Night, and I do not understand how it can say that this is inspired by that, but whatever.
Did that have a person being slowly consumed by a rock?
No, so the plot of Twelfth Night appears to be, there's twins, a man and a woman, so brother and sister. They're in a shipwreck. The brother is presumed dead, and the sister survives and is rescued. And so then the sister disguises herself as a man to get a job working for this, like, Duke. And the Duke is in love with this woman, but that woman is, like, in mourning about something or other. And so she's like, no, I will not have any suitors until, like, so many years have passed of my mourning. And so to get around this, the Duke sends this new quote-unquote guy that he's employing to, like, act as an intermediary to, like, express his love to this woman. So, but then the woman who he wants to go after falls in love with the quote-unquote guy, the lady in disguise.
Sure.
And then the lady in disguise has fallen in love with the Duke. So there's like this love triangle thing going on.
Huh.
And then it turns out her brother's not really dead. And because they're twins, they look super alike. So when he shows up, he looks like the girl pretending to be a guy. And the lady who's fallen in love with the disguised woman is just like, "Oh, my love, you." Like, and they get married. And so, yeah, it's just like a weird... And also there's some side story where they like these other suitors trick a guy who works for her into like thinking that she loves him so that he makes a fool of himself. And none of it seems to have anything to do with this episode.
Well, I mean, that could maybe have, because, Odo admits his love for Kira or whatever. But that's all. It was a trick to get Odo to admit his love for Kira. So that...
Yeah, I mean, in the story, what happens is like this guy's not in love with her, and then these guys like plant a love letter in his room that's supposedly from her. That's like, "Hey, I want you to wear yellow stockings," which is a color the woman actually hates, "and also be rude to the other servants, and like smile at me constantly to like show me that you feel the same way about me." And he's like, "Oh man, this is awesome. Okay, I'll do that stuff," and he gets fired.
Huh. And then it gets eaten by a giant rock?
No, like the other suitors are like, "Oh man, clearly this guy, his name is Malvolio. Clearly Malvolio's gone insane. So we should like take him and like imprison him or something."
Huh. Maybe that's where the rock come. I don't know. So who says this is supposed to be 12th Night?
The wiki says that the title of the episode comes from, and the plot was partially inspired by what's written about the story in the script at the top is that the Kira Odo storyline is partly based on the novel Sometimes a Great Notion.
Oh yeah, that novel.
Which is the second novel by American author Ken Kesey. And it says, while One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is his more famous novel, many critics consider this to be his magnum opus.
Oh. Is it about a person getting eaten by a rock?
It's the story involves an Oregon family of Jippo loggers who cut trees for a local mill in opposition to unionized workers who are on strike.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can see the parallel.
I don't know. I don't understand I don't know what they're basing any of this on, but...
I mean, this just sounds like some, like, Ira Stephen Bear, like, bullshitting.
I do like that the guy from that book is named Henry Stamper, and the only person I've ever heard named Stamper is, like, Harry Stamper from the movie Armageddon. So the entire time I was reading this wiki article about this book, I was just like, is Armageddon and somehow referencing this?
Okay. Let's talk about this plan by the female changeling.
Okay.
Like, how was it conceived? How did she envision this going? So, she leads... First of all, how did she get into the Alpha Quadrant?
I mean, they can disguise themselves as anybody, so I feel like that's the easiest thing in the world. Or anything. Like, they're like, "Hey, I'm a box now."
But apparently she has, like, a ship, too.
That's true. She got, like, a Maquis ship. Yeah.
At some point, I guess they've snuck a ship in. I was thinking, it's like, do they have some way of like cloaking and hiding behind other ships when a ship goes through the wormhole or something? I don't know.
Maybe.
If I was Odo, I'd be really curious about that. So we need to like extra inspect everything that comes through the wormhole. Anyway, so she's like, okay, we're gonna lure Kira and Odo to this planet, and then hope that they go down into these caves, or I guess, they left a spaceship there and a trail of blood going into the caves or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then get Kira separated from Odo, put Kira in a box. What they're planning on doing with her, I don't know. Maybe like interrogate her or something. And then it's like, and then what? It's like, and then I'll pretend that I'm Kira and that my foot is trapped in a rock that's slowly growing. I don't know. It's just really weird. And I guess the payoff is that she puts on an act of Kira dying or something, and this makes Odo want to come back to the Great Link.
Yeah, I mean, did they know going in that he loved her, or did they just suspect?
She said she suspected his attachment to the solids had something to do with Kira.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean that it may have been partially just like a fact-finding mission. Like,
Sure.
Let's find out for sure what's going on here.
But then, like, she explicitly says, and then, like, we were going to make you think Kira was dead and you'd want to come back to the Great Link.
Yeah.
So I was like, just like, I want to hear somebody explain that plan in a way that makes sense, is basically all I'm saying.
I mean, honestly, it would have been a million times easier to just arrange for Kira to die.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
in reality.
Because that was my first thought. Is like, why didn't they? But I guess like they had to do this ruse also, because she did want to understand what it was about Kira that Odo was interested in, or whatever. So,
I guess if you can convince him to come back to the Great Link, then you'll find out then what he liked about Kira so much. But
yeah, and also, how are you going to keep that secret from Odo forever once he goes back to the Great Link?
That's a good point. Yeah, I hadn't even considered that. Maybe, well, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I assume changelings can still kind of keep secrets even when they're linked. But, I mean, all these changelings are going to be like, oh yeah, you're too bad your girl that you were in love with died and you had to be here. But welcome back, brother, or whatever. That would just be a really weird dynamic going on there. So I rate this plan F.
Yeah, it's really not a great plan. And I mean, it requires a lot of very specific things to happen. It's like, Odo and Kira have to be out on a runabout by themselves, and then you have to, like, fire on this freighter or whatever, and then get them to chase you, but be close enough to this thing so you can outrun them there.
Sure. I mean, I assume, like, their network of spies learned of this trip ahead of time or something, and they were like, oh, we can put this op into effect. Maybe they had short time to prepare, which is why the plan was so crappy.
Yeah, could be. I've been digging into trying to find out like how this is based on that movie. Ira Stephen Bear is in here commenting that the scene in the film adaptation of Sometimes a Great Notion, it's a great scene in a not so great movie. So that's all it says. I don't know. I doesn't say what scene they're talking about. So I had to go out and look at the wiki for the film adaptation, where Quentin Tarantino was quoted saying a good, somewhat compromised movie that is justly famous for one of the greatest scenes in early 70s cinema. Also no explanation of what the scene is. So I had to Google, like, best scene in this movie, which according to this one review is like a scene of during a day of work where you see like the men look terribly small as they bring down these enormous trees and wrap chains around them, and the direction is so superb that you understand the reality of the danger of these huge logs. And so I'm like, well, that doesn't sound anything like having to do with this episode, so I don't know.
Ira Stephen Bear must be thinking of a different scene.
I guess so, but yeah. So yeah, I still haven't found anything about that. Is the upshot? But it was. I did like running into random Quentin Tarantino quotes.
Yeah. I just prefer my imagined version of the story where Kira was just like a mindless like mimic creature, and then Odo professed his love to it. And then, I
mean, just take Kira and permanently replace her, and like do this con long term.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, you could hook up with Odo and then break his heart, and he would be even less inclined to stay.
Yeah. I don't understand many aspects of this plan. Like, in particular, why was Kira in a box, first of all?
Well, yeah, they put her in stasis or something.
Yeah, if you want Kira, why not just take her away immediately? Like, have the Jem'Hadar take her into custody or something.
Maybe they don't have that many ships or guys that they've snuck in. I don't know. It's an excellent points that I have no way to.
Maybe, yeah. I guess maybe the female changeling, she wasn't able to get in like a ton of backup. She's basically like on her own and I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Let's see. Robert Hewitt Wolf says that about Nog's storyline. It just struck me one day that out of Wesley, Jake, and Nog, the one who will really become Starfleet and stand on a bridge to say engage 20 years from now would be Nog. there was a nice irony and something cool to do with that character, especially after Jake did not want to go into Starfleet.
Right.
Which I'm glad that they're doing something with his character.
Sure.
It's hard to say at this point whether that's the best thing to do with him, but it's something and it's interesting, so I'm on board with it.
Better than last episode where he was just yelling at his date to shut up and cut his food for him.
Yeah, going to live in Federation society long term, like to the academy and stuff. That'll make that an interesting if you keep that shit up.
Yeah. I want to see him go on like a date with a Klingon or something and try that.
I wonder how that works when you get like all of these young people of different species and planets into this area of the academy, because all of these cultures are going to have different like dating type rituals.
Sure.
So I wonder how like crazy the conflicts get.
Yeah, I'm sure they just kind of like all figure it out on an ad hoc basis.
Yeah. Also, Ronald D. Moore is like, I'm really impressed with the Nog storyline. I think that was an interesting direction. Somehow, Captain Nog sounds cool.
Everybody has these visions of Captain Nog.
Yeah. Just they can just peer into the future. We got a new rule of acquisition. A Ferengi without profit is no Ferengi at all.
Yeah. Which is like, it was like number 18.
Yeah, 18.
That sounds like it would be like number 1.
Right? Yeah, that does seem like, maybe not number 1, but like definitely high number.
Yeah.
Or low number, I guess I should say. Let's see. Critic Jeff Terich wrote one of the best, if unsung, episodes of the series. Wherein an increasingly desperate Odo attempts to save Major Kira from being killed by some kind of growing crystal, and the once comical Ferengi Nog decides to join Starfleet. Moments like these show it's not the Prime Directive we care about, necessarily, but the people who pilot the starships and man the station. It's a needed dose of humanity while social interaction is out of bounds.
I mean, it was a very character-driven episode, that's true.
Yeah, 100%.
If only for budgetary reasons, apparently.
You sometimes that's where the best stuff comes from.
Sure, that's you hear those stories all the time. So
yeah, Duet is one of the ones they reference for that, and that's been like one of the best episodes so far. One of our like, we've maybe done 3 that we agreed was a captain, both of us, if that many. There's one Renee Echevarria thing where he's like, "This is one of my favorite episodes. I find it absolutely heartbreaking for Odo to finally proclaim his love for Kira, thinking she's going to die, and realize she's not who she says she is when she says she loves him too." Which, that's true.
I would think you'd just be more relieved that she was never in any danger.
That's also true. Except at that point, I guess he doesn't know. Like, what he's like, he has to finally reveal his love, and then he hears the words that he wants to hear, but also realizes at that same moment that they're not true, so this isn't Kira. Like, I think that would be pretty terrible. Oh, and there's one thing. Aaron Eisenberg talking about filming his scenes with Avery Brooks, which he's like, that those were the best scenes. Avery is awesome. He's got this presence, this power behind his eyes. How can I explain it? He gives it to you when you look in his eyes. He doesn't just look at your eyes, but he looks into your eyes and feeds you. He's like, that was a scene we had rehearsed, but as soon as we shot it, he unexpectedly grabbed my shoulder and was like, "Tell me, Nog, what is it?" And it was awesome because he forced me to come up to that level. I didn't back down, and I like blurted out my line. He's so professional, and this was my favorite scene. It finally gave me, as an actor, something to really think about and deal with.
I guess we don't get a ton of Nog and Cisco scenes, so
well, especially not like emotional.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's everything. Let's get into ratings. What do you want to rate this one?
Okay. So I like what they're getting at with the Odo stuff, showing how far he's come from where he was in season 1 episodes like A Man Alone. But I think the story they chose to do that with is kind of lame. Also, it like the beat feels a little repetitive after the search, which I feel did it way better. I don't know. I just felt there was no sense that Odo was actually tempted to go back to the Great Link, unlike in the search. Like there was no real connection. I felt like.
Yeah, I mean, by the time that you find out who she is, he's just pissed off that she's lying to him. So
it kind of reminds me of people say about Star Wars. It's like you never buy that Luke was tempted for even a single second to actually join the dark side. So it kind of like hurts the drama a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so all we really get is this kind of like little pang of regret that his feelings for Kira might continue to go unrequited. So that story I'm going to give a lieutenant.
Okay.
However, the Nog story, which seems dumb and out of left field at first, but when I was thinking about it, I realized I kind of like it. So I like seeing Nog have this mature moment of self-realization, and I like seeing the normally spineless Rom stick his neck out in support of his son's dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought kind of those moments, like when Nog was, that scene with Sisko where Nog is telling why he wants to join Starfleet, and then where we see just like Rom, who's just throughout the whole episode just constantly being like cowed by Quark or whatever. He's like, no, you know what? I'd be proud to see my son like go be his best self in Starfleet or whatever. So like at first, like when I was watching it, it didn't quite land with me. But when I was reflecting on it, I was like, you know what? That actually, the character motivations feel true.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't find any like real fault with it other than just like all of a sudden Nog wants to join Starfleet. But I felt like they handled that pretty well. And then like all of a sudden Rom as a technical genius was a little weird, but whatever. So that story I'm going to give a lieutenant commander. And I feel like that puts it slightly over the line into an overall lieutenant commander for the episode.
Okay.
How would you rate Heart of Stone?
All right, so the Kira Odo story, I like where it forces Odo to go emotionally.
Uh-huh.
And I actually like the scene where he gets to have his Sherlock Holmes moment where he like lays out all of the evidence and she really can't come up with any good rebuttals for any of it.
I do always enjoy when Odo goes Sherlock Holmes mode.
Yeah, exactly. And she's just like, well, what if maybe I said that to make you feel better? And he's like, no, Kira wouldn't do that. So she's like, she's not even like trying a very strong, she doesn't even say like, oh, I said that for this reason. She's like, well, what if maybe I... So it's he really just like hammers her with the facts and until she has to give in. I like that. Other than that, those two bits, I find the whole like it's just boring.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
and it's boring. So and I guess really it doesn't make any sense because it's not supposed to. Like the whole crystal thing, as you pointed out several times, it's like it grows in ridiculous ways only at plot appropriate times, and it wouldn't make any sense at all if you didn't get to the end and you're like, oh, it doesn't make any sense because there's a reason for that. Okay, well, whatever. It feels like a lot of wasted stuff. I agree that you could have gotten Odo to the same place emotionally in a way that wasn't dumb.
Yeah.
So yeah, that part I'm kind of on. The Nog story, I will agree that I like the Nog story a lot, actually. I would probably go like full commander on the Nog story because I feel like it's odd coming immediately after the previous episode's Nog bit.
Yeah, that's part of the weirdness about it, for sure.
Yeah. If it had been spaced out by even one or two episodes, it wouldn't have seemed so out of nowhere, I guess. But like Nog's explanation for I've now become an adult, so I need to choose my career. You're like, okay, well that makes sense why we haven't heard about this before because now is the moment he has to choose. So I buy that. I like the emotion of his admission of why he wants to join Starfleet. I like the idea of him joining Starfleet or trying to because that opens the door to some interesting, more adult stories with Nog in the future that aren't just him being a dumb kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like that we haven't forgotten his history because Sisko's immediate thing is like, you're always like screwing up and like stealing and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And he gives him a test specifically designed to be like, is he going to try to steal something? We're going to have him catalog all this valuable stuff and tell him like, yeah, we don't know what's in here. We lost the records. So we need you to catalog it. And I also like the way that Nog approaches it because he's like, you want me to catalog all this stuff? And when she explains to him why, and yes, he's like, okay, got it. It'll be done. ASAP. And
Yeah.
she's just like, okay then. And he not only lives up to his word, he does an excellent job. And so it's not just, oh my gosh, like he wants to join Starfleet. It's like, maybe he is on some level Starfleet material and he's never gotten the chance to show that before. So there's lots of good bits in that story that I like a lot.
Sure.
I don't know. Once again, if we're weighing the two stories against each other, I think I'm going to end up at an overall lieutenant commander as well.
Okay.
Because I don't think that I can bring it all the way to a commander for the whole episode.
Yeah, it's really weird where both the A and B stories feel really prominent, but they're so completely separate. It's like hard to synthesize those two things together.
Yeah, it's like if you'd called if the name that you gave the episode evoked something about Nog's story instead of Odo's story, I might feel like Odo's story was the B story. Yeah. I don't know.
Sure. Maybe it's maybe Cisco has a heart of stone about writing a letter of recommendation for Nog.
The only drawback I have to Nog's section is that his confrontation with Jake feels weird to me because I'm like, he would trust, like, him and Jake. Jake is like his one friend. Sure. I feel like he would not be exactly like he would trust Jake enough to tell him something and not be like, no, shut up, mind your own business.
Yeah, I don't know. He might just feel, because when you like kind of extend yourself like that, you feel a little self-conscious about it. So
yeah, I'm sure he feels very self-conscious. He doesn't want to tell anyone. It's like, my father sucks, and I have to admit this.
Right.
Like that's not something, because he loves his dad, right, and it's not that his dad is a bad guy.
No, he's not mad at his dad. He's mad at like Ferengi
the
society.
Situation, right? But he's just like, my dad's not a good Ferengi, and I'm also not going to be a good Ferengi, and I don't want to. Yeah, right. So, but it's interesting because I feel like we're starting to get into the character that Rom is going to be,
right?
Whereas when we first introduced Rom, he's just like a Ferengi asshole guy. Yeah. In season 1, and then he's kind of like who tries to have his brother killed,
tries to assassinate Quark.
Yeah, and so I feel like now we're getting into a little bit. They're finally deciding where to go with Rom a little bit.
In the middle of season 3, they finally figured Rom out.
Yeah.
But most importantly, what did you think of the baby shower storyline?
I like this idea that because I don't feel like we have enough of these characters. And I mentioned it in the last episode with I'm like, why don't we have a regular nurse that's a recurring character? I feel like on the Enterprise, we had more recurring, even if they were very small stuff. Like O'Brien was really a recurring character, a recurring like minor role on the Enterprise. I feel like we need more of those on Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, that's true. Like they really do tend to hyper focus on their main characters, whereas like on the Enterprise we had like you just see a guy pop up every once in a while.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we found out that like security guy, whatever his name was, pops up all the time on the show. Right. We just didn't realize it.
He never has any lines. But we had like O'Brien, we had Barclay.
Yeah.
You could put Guinan in that category, maybe.
Oh yeah, totally. There was Nurse Ogawa was there. We had there's other ones I'm not thinking of. But anyway, there's I like the idea that we're opening it up and like the Starfleet officers on Deep Space Nine, even this one that we never get to see, he's going to get brought up several more times over the course of the show, and I like that. I like expanding the universe of the inside of this station in with these little things that are just kind of little fun bits.
Yeah.
Also, Majel Barrett is the computer voice, because the time we hear the computer voice in this episode is on the runabout. So
right. Yep.
I like that they've maintained that separation of the Federation computer voice and the station's slightly different computer voice.
I felt like you could definitely hear more of her voice in that scene where she's like being like, "No, you can't do that."
Yeah. when the computer starts to get a little bit sassy.
It's like, no, why would you even think you could try that? Stop. You cannot beam through ionized atmosphere or whatever. And Odo's like, ugh. And I like that Soyuz. It kind of reminded me of the time when everybody was getting taken over by the weird probe thing, and then Odo was the only one not affected.
Yeah.
And he had to like try to trick like all the other people into doing their jobs to to solve the problem. It felt kind of like that when he's talking to the computer. He's like, look, I don't know. Is there something we can do to contact Deep Space Nine? It's like, no. It's like, ugh. Or it's like, is there something we can do to like beam her out? It's like, no.
Oh yeah, because it was like, I want to contact this, and it's like Major Kira has cut off all communication with the Federation. So I want to contact Bajor. It's like, nope. Chief O'Brien has cut off all communication with Bajor.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, damn it.
Yeah.
I think my final thing would be that season 3 is doing the things that I really hated that season 1 didn't do, and then season 2 started to do a little bit better, which is building up these things that are going to carry over and cause interesting stories down the line. And so I don't know if the writers are finally catching on that this is a good idea, or if it's just that the things that are written now, the writers are going to be more interested in picking up as the seasons progress.
Sure, yeah. Like all those threads from season 1, they're still just gone. But
yeah.
Now we're setting up some new threads that maybe might be interesting to follow. So
yeah, I think season 3 is when we're really getting into that. Season 2 did a little bit, but I think now and so I'm happy about that. Season 3 is I'm also random that O'Brien sings ancient human sea chanties. He's particularly fond of Louie Louie, which was so random that it made me laugh because I did not remember that line.
Well, I was like, is there a sea shanty? Is Louie Louie a sea shanty, or I don't know.
Okay, well, hold on. Let's go to Wikipedia and find out the source of Louie Louie. It's a rhythm and blues song composed by Richard Berry in 1955. Oh. So yeah, I don't know that would qualify as a sea shanty.
I'm guessing it's not a sea shanty, but it's like what was it on Futurama when there's like they go to past land or whatever, and it's like Einstein is hanging out with Hammurabi and.
Oh yeah,
all this stuff. It's like
in a hot air balloon.
They have no conception, like before like 100 years ago. Pretty much all of history blends together.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just an extension of how we look at things in a lot of ways. I mean, like, do you know the difference between stuff that happened in like between 1 and 2000 as opposed, or like within 1 and 2000, like
right? Yeah, no, definitely
1200 versus 1500. No, probably not.
Like if you plopped me down at a random time in history, like I'd have no clue, unless like I could walk up to somebody and ask them, or unless like it was very obviously like during World War II or something.
Right? Yeah. No, you're like, oh wait, there's a war happening in the middle of Europe. Are there trenches everywhere? Yeah. No. All right. Okay. I think I figured it out.
Yep.
I like this one note on Louie Louie in here where it's like Dave Marsh in his book Louie Louie, the history and mythology of the world's most famous rock and roll song. I like that's a book first off.
I question that premise, but okay.
He wrote, "It is the best of songs, it is the worst of songs," and also called it cosmically crude.
Okay.
I
think you're maybe a little too into that song, dude. But...
Clearly, he wrote a whole book about it.
It's like, Johnny Be Good, forget it. It's like, I Want to Hold Your Hand. Nah. It's Louie Louie.
Yep, that's the one. I can't even think of the words Louie Louie off the top of my head, I'll be honest. I'm going to have to like listen to it after this.
It's like, Louie Louie.
Yeah, Louie Louie I remember.
We used to play that in band, didn't we? Didn't it have the lyrics on the...
I remember playing it in band. I don't remember if there were lyrics on there.
Maybe not. Some of them had lyrics on them. I guess some of them didn't. I don't remember. That was been a long time ago.
It's a very long time ago, yeah.
So yeah, ready to wrap it up there?
Yep, let's do that.
Okay. So yeah, that does it for us today. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. As always, check out the description. You may find links to interesting things. So what do we got? We got
Louie Louie.
What was that? We'll try to find that famous scene from that movie or whatever.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Or maybe just there would be nothing down there, and
you guys should go watch that movie and come back and tell us what the scene was that was anything like this show.
Please go do our research for us, because we do not understand. Anyway, I'm Fletcher. About to say goodbye is Data.
See ya.
Until next time, don't forget, unless you want to change careers and join Starfleet, don't forget to kiss the Negus stick.